Most students get intimidated when it comes time to put clay on their model and start sculpting their final design. It can seem like an overwhelming task, and they develop a fear of getting started. Don't worry, the great thing about clay is that it's not permanent. Clay allows you the ability to add and remove or drastically change parts of your model quickly and easily. Working with clay is relaxing and fun. Enjoy the process. You may never get to do this again in your career. Let's recap quickly. We took a bunch of insulation sheet foam, glued it together into a giant block, and did a whole bunch of carving and sanding to get a close representation of our car model that is half an inch or 1.2 millimeters smaller than the final size. Now, all we have to do is add the clay. No, not like that. That's not what we're doing. We're going to use Automotive sculpting clay. It's an oil-based clay that is activated by heat, not water, and is used in the automotive industry to make small-scale and full-scale car models in their concept and development stage. It comes in these billets. They are too big for us to use, so we're going to need to cut them down. We need to get the heat all the way through the clay to the center, so we will cut them into cookie-sized pieces that are not too thick. Now that we have a bunch cut out, we can get them into the oven. Place them on a clean sheet of aluminum foil or oven-safe tray of some kind, and spread them out. For heating up the clay, you can't just use any old oven for this. This is a low-temp laboratory oven. It can be set at very low temperatures so as not to overheat the clay. Overheating clay is bad. Once it's turned on, it will heat up to a pre-programmed temperature, perfect for our use. If you have to work off campus, you can make your own low-temp oven. I have a video for that. Check the link in the description. Place your sheet on one of the shelves and close the door and wait. While the clay heats up, we can get the foam buck ready for it. To help the clay stick to the surface, we need to give it some texture. One way is to pick off a bunch of tiny pieces, creating a cratered surface, so the clay will have something to grab onto. You also want to make sure there is no foam dust or shavings left on the surface from the carving process. A vacuum cleaner will help with that. Let's check and see if our clay is ready. Here's how you can tell if the clay is ready to use. Cold clay will be cold, duh, but also very brittle. If you try and form it, it just cracks. Whereas the hot clay will be warm throughout and very pliable, and will smush together nicely. The clay should not be uncomfortable to touch. It should be a nice warm temperature. If it's too hot, your temperature is set too high. If you overheat clay, it will liquefy and be ruined. Once the clay has liquefied, it is no longer usable, even after it has cooled down. So just throw it out. Let's get our hands dirty and start smearing some clay onto the foam buck. Hold up, we need to apply the right amount of clay. Your model consists of a base, a skateboard, and a foam buck. You need to apply enough clay to get you to the final height of your model based on your tape drawing. You don't want to add too much or you will have to remove a lot of clay when sculpting. Too little and you will hit the foam buck underneath as you sculpt in the details. Make sure you add the thickness of the skateboard and the foam buck together into your calculations to get the final height of your vehicle. Take small amounts of clay and begin to apply to the foam buck by smearing it on and spreading it around. Try and create an even thickness over the whole model. This will be very important later. This process is very time consuming, so put in some earbuds and your favorite music and get at it. Once you get a consistent thickness over the entire model, you can start the refining process of smoothing out the surface and defining the panel lines of your vehicle. For that, we're going to need some tools. Let's talk tools. Every discipline has its own set of specialized tools. Clay modeling is no different. The clay tools are available from specialty suppliers locally or online, but let's look at what's included in your kit. Our toolkits are handmade by an automotive clay sculptor named Robert Liss, who sculpts cars for GM in Detroit. He makes these kits for design students all over the world. He has assembled the most commonly used tools and made them very affordable for students. Professional clay tools can get very expensive. Let's have a closer look at the tools. The most heavily used tools are called rakes. They do the majority of the work. They come in many sizes and shapes. These are the most commonly used ones. The edges are serrated and sharp. That makes for quick clay removal, and it leaves behind a textured surface, which is great if you need to add clay back onto the surface. Keep them clean and sharp for best results. You will also get a sharp knife for cutting clay and marking surfaces. Also included are two rasps, one fine and one coarse, for quick removal of clay. They act like a cheese grater. So if you need to remove large amounts of clay off your surface, these are great and quick. You're also going to get a large assortment of steels in the most common shapes. These are great for smoothing out clay and removing ripples on large surfaces. They are also used for polishing the model's surface at the end. The steels are made of very thin spring steel, so they are very flexible, so you can conform them to a multitude of surfaces. That's everything that's in the kit. Let's look at some other tools that are nice to have but not mandatory. Double-ended wires are great for fine detail work because of how many different sizes and variations of ends that are available. The ends are made of hardened steel wire, so they are very strong. They also have sharp edges on each end to cut through the clay like butter. Another great tool is a contour gauge. This is a series of tightly packed pins in a holder. You place it onto a complex surface if you want to duplicate it. Gently push the pins onto the area you need to copy, and it will conform to that shape, giving you a positive and negative version of it. There are many versions and sizes of this tool, from metal to plastic. If you need to transfer information from one side of the model to the other, this tool is invaluable. Let's start using these tools. First thing you want to do is take your tape drawing and start to roughly lay out all the major body panels. This will help you get a sense of your vehicle surfaces and their relationships to each other. Once all your lines are on, you can then begin to smooth out the surfaces. Using a crisscross pattern, go over the entire model with your rakes to start eliminating the rough or wavy surfaces left behind by your fingers in the clay application. You want to level or flatten the surfaces to start revealing the major planes of your vehicle: hood, roof, trunk, fenders, etc. You're trying to get a general shape and the transitions between them worked out. Don't worry about the fine details yet, they will come much later. This is super important. Focus only on one side of the model. Do not jump back and forth and try and sculpt both sides at the same time. It will be very hard to keep them symmetrical. Get all the surfaces and transitions worked out to a satisfactory level on one side first. Then, transfer the information to the other side. It will be much easier that way and less stressful for you. Once you get all the surfaces to your liking, It's time to start transferring the major design lines to the model accurately. On your tape drawing, find a point to transfer. Use the grid to determine where that point is on the car from the top view. Using the side view, determine the height using the grid, or you can use a ruler to measure from the floor line up. Take the height measurement and transfer it to the pointer device. The line on the base corresponds to the tip of the pointer. Take that line and position it on your base's grid according to the coordinates from the tape drawing. This will give you the location of the point on the surface of your vehicle. Do that with enough points and then connect them with lines. Do this with all the major design lines from the tape drawing. Now that you got a bunch of lines on it, start to use your rakes to refine and smooth out the surfaces to the lines you drew. Start to sharpen the edges and draw out the features of your design. You can also start to work on some of the finer detail now. It's easier to add certain design elements after you get the main surfaces sorted out. To do so, you need to prepare the surface by scoring some deep lines for the clay to stick to. Then, slightly heat the surface to allow the new clay to stick. Get some warm clay and start to build up the areas a little at a time. Once you're happy with the shape, you need to start to refine it and sharpen the edges with the rakes. Keep transferring information from your main side to the other side and keep refining the details until they start to really sharpen and take shape. Start to refine the large surfaces by smoothing them out and blending them together. Using the rake without teeth is perfect for smoothing out the surface and beginning the final step of polishing. You're going to use the steels for the last step of the process and finish off the model. The steels will smooth out all the tiny ripples in the surface of the vehicle and flatten them out. This step will also polish the clay a little bit and give your surface a really nice finished look. Choose the shape that most closely matches the surface contour and then gently drag it across in a crisscross pattern. Doing this will remove the tiniest amount of clay and flatten any surface imperfections. Do this to all the surfaces until you are happy with the final finish. Your goal is to create a final model that has well-defined surfaces and details, crisp, sharp lines, and a smooth, polished surface finish. Take your time with the finishing step. It will make your model look very professional and is a great addition to your portfolio. Clay models are still used in the automotive industry today. It's the best way to get a full-size prototype quickly and inexpensively. It allows the designers to add or subtract detail very quickly, allowing for instant feedback. It also gives you the opportunity to walk around the model and get a big picture view of the entire design. To make a great clay model, you need weeks of preparation, sketching, planning, so give yourself plenty of time to do the work. This is not a project you can knock out in a short amount of time. All the steps need to be followed, and some of them will take a long time, so make sure you give yourself plenty of it. I hope these videos help clarify some things, and were helpful to you. Thanks for watching.